A warm welcome to the Sunday meditation session, friends. This is a special day today. It's a friendship day. And happy friendship day to all of you. Spirituality means friendship. It's kinship with everyone, beyond caste, creed, religion. No barriers in friendship. We do friendship. We offer our friendship, and we offer our smile. We offer our kindness. So today is a very special day, and particularly Maitreya Buddha likes this day. Buddha of the future and the consciousness of the all people on the planet Earth, it is represented as Maitreya Buddha consciousness, a mass awakening of all the individuals are happening at a globally everywhere. It is nothing but friendship Buddha, friendly Buddha. Is a Buddha not on a high pedestal sitting giving sermons and teachings, but Buddha, every one of us is a Buddha. Everyone is awakening through the practice, through the sadhana. Today, indeed, very, very special day for all of us, friends. And today's topic that we have selected, all of us selected, is many faces of ego. Really, ego has many faces? Yes, it looks like that. There are different types of egos that we see in people. All types of egos. Outwardly, superficially, when you look at all people, and you will make out, yes, it has many faces. It is different. We can notice it in terms of how much ego they are carrying, how much they are projecting out, how much they are showing it off, or else we can see it is different traits of ego that we find in different individuals. Today we will go into this topic because it's a very important topic. All the spiritual practitioners is very essential topic. With ego, we will not be able to progress in the spiritual path. First thing a teacher, a guru, does is chopping the ego of the disciple. Unless a student, a pupil, a disciple chops the ego and cannot learn the wisdom, we cannot receive. If we go with a bloated ego, I'm a professor in the university, to a teacher, to a great meditation teacher, because you judge that teacher, he is very young, he is young looking, he is less than 30 years, and you have some criteria of a guru. A teacher means must be white beard and coming from Himalayas, having at least 80 plus age. All these criteria sometimes is all our judgmental mind which creates this criteria of a guru. A guru is the one who is enlightened, who is awakened, who has acquired the wisdom of the soul through the practice, through the self-experiences. So, if we have this ego that I know everything, I know better than you, we cannot learn from any other. So first, a teacher chops the ego of a disciple. Not deliberately, sometimes it's not seen, very invisibly. And unless a disciple also drops the ego, they cannot actually learn and progress. in the spiritual path. And today we will look into the hidden dynamics of this ego, how it is playing such a big role in our life, and sometimes very devastating. We are going through a lot of turbulence, lot of misery, suffering because of our ego. Let us go into deep into this subject today. And outwardly, the ego looks like many different ways. But if you look deep into the structure of the ego, it has a very common principle, common traits. It is same thing, which is actually showing it off as different manifestations outwardly. The ego is portraying as some power ego, or ego about something that you have and something that people don't have, and you try to say that I am rich person, I have 10 cars, and look at this, I have many things in life. And the kind of ego state people can identify. So first of all, this topic is about ego to essence. I call it as ego to essence, the journey from ego to essence. We are all identified with the ego, but we have forgotten what we are and who we are truly. Ego can be called as a false identity. That's the definition that we can give to ego. Ego is a false, illusory identity. Whatever that we are identified with, which is mostly outwardly, external things we are identified with the mind, mental state, with certain concepts in our mind. And this identification, which creates identities, is called as ego state or egoic state. So it's very simple. It's a false identity. We think it's very real, but it is illusion. We go on living the whole life like that, delving on in this illusion. And any false identity, it has a lot of consequences in our life too. So our journey is to understand first the ego structure, how it is made of, what it is made of, how it is created in the first place, and then go to the essence. Deep down in all of us there is essence. We call it as soul, atma, or different names, but it is the same. It is the essence. So there are two kinds of minds that if we look into that psychologically, through psychology field, if we look into the structure of the mind, because mainly the ego is because identification with the mind. What you are identified with the mind, with the concept in your mind, the I that is created, the false identity, which can be easily understood by this concept about the two minds. Psychologists, they say we all carry the two minds. We all carry two identities. One identity is the ego identity. Second identity is called soul identity, or the essence identity, the real identity. So we are catching hold of the false identity, very superficial, and we are lost in the ego games. So the two minds are, number one is lower mind. Generally it is called as egoic mind. The egoic mind also is called lower mind. There is a higher mind, which is identified with the soul, this entity called soul in us, which is called intuitive mind, or can be called as a buddhi, which is flowered buddhi or blossomed buddhi. which is distilled wisdom in us, distilled intellect, which turns into wisdom, a flowering of the mind, a divine mind. We can call it as higher mind. So this is identified with the soul. The egoic mind is always with the realm of lower mind. The lower mind nature is always identify outside things. When we are children, this starts there from the children. First time another child comes, takes you a toy, you say, it's mine, don't touch my toy, it's mine. Me and mine concept develops. Till then there is no me, mine. It's me, it's you, and all of us. It's needed. There is a healthy ego that's needed for children, which sets some kind of ego boundaries. They understand it, but it becomes worse. It goes to unhealthy ego, a state where you also, as an adult, you think that me, mine. We always me. Entire life we go on living like that, and it is very painful for everyone. It creates a lot of suffering and misery, being in an egoic state, in that false identity. So some of the hidden dynamics of the egoic mind, let us look into that so that we can identify it in our own life. Because I am speaking it from my own experience of ego state. I experienced it in my life. As a child, as a teenager, as an adolescent, I was having highly inflated ego. I knew when I entered into spiritual path, I tried to mask it with a spiritual ego developed in me. But one day it has to be chopped. Ram is the essence, Ravana is the ego. Ravana has to be chopped. Ravana has to be killed. The ego has to be destroyed. There is the death of the ego that happens in spirituality, in meditation path. So friends, the first thing is holding on to one's own viewpoints, rigid in their nature. Egoic state is what I am saying is right, what I am thinking is right. I am right, you are wrong. Rigid in their views. So friends, we can notice these characteristics in our own life too. Sometimes we are so rigid, so egoistic. If we look into all relationships, most of the relationship conflicts are ego conflicts. It's simple. We don't want to understand the other's viewpoint. We say, mother-in-law says, I am right, and daughter-in-law says, she is right, and there is a conflict. There is an ego that develops in them, and they go on fighting with each other. Even this won't stop. Most of the conflicts are the ego conflicts because they are identified with the lower mind, with egoic mind, even which creates war between two states, two countries. Not only between individuals, even conflicts between countries, the ego. So, attachment to what is known and resistance to change. Ego says, I don't change. You change first. It always is threatened with the change. Because ego is identification with outside things, external things, our superficial concepts of the mind. The I is identified with money, power, certain kinds of states, like you are very good professional, you are a doctor, you are an engineer. There is a kind of pride and arrogance that we have, professional arrogance. I am supreme doctor, I am the greatest doctor, nobody else exists like me. Or a kind of ego that comes into a financially prospering individual who says, I am very, very rich. I am richer than anyone. I have all the richness in the world. It brings a certain ego in them. So they resist change. They don't want something, no change. But change is the principle in the universe. One day or other everything goes topsy-turvy. It has to be that way. Everything that we are clinging to will be lost. It will be going away. Everything shall pass. This too shall pass away. So the ego says, no, I cling to it. No, I don't want to change. I resist it. I want this. So this is what the ego says. And comparisons. Always ego compares you with others. Always compares individuals. Have you seen that sometimes in our life, many children we see these days, they always compares. They learn it from their parents about this because they have wrong models. The egoic parents can pass on this heritage to children as a heritage. They pass on these ego traits. A false, bloated ego, inflated ego in children, who always compares. Oh, I'm not good enough. That person is good enough. And I am better. My father has, they boast about their fathers. Most of the children, when they talk, my father has this, my father has that. And they go on boasting about it. We see these kind of ego structures in children also these days. They are just mirrors to the parents. A parent who is highly egoic, children, they learn, they adopt, they just absorb it. And because they don't know how to behave differently, how to connect with their essence, they behave egoistically. And criticism. Always ego structures, egos in us criticizes all the time. Criticizing. Because by blaming, criticizing, you will put yourself on a high pedestal. If you can find fault with others, that means you are right. Oh, you are wrong in this. I'm right. You catch everyone doing wrong things. That's what ego does. Essence of soul has a very different nature. It catches right things, catches people doing right things and appreciates them. It connects. And some of the other behaviors that we find in the egoic states is fear and insecurity. Because we are too much identified with certain things, there is a strong fear and insecurity. We are identified with money, power, name and fame, success, achievements. Or we are constantly seeking approval in the world. I need to prove my worth. We are identified with it. There is a constant fear and insecurity. Most of us, we are conditioned. Our worth is always measured in terms of how much money, how much name and fame we have, and even other external parameters about our appearance. If you are not looking good, then you are not worthy. We label ourselves as unworthy. But our self-worth has nothing to do with these external parameters. But the ego says, I have to prove my worth. As children, we learn these kind of conditioned responses. We started living this way. We go on proving our self-worth, proving to the Father. We seek approvals. We seek appreciations. We seek love from outside world. Because constant fear and insecurity that we developed. And separativeness. Ego always separates. Me, mine, and you there. Always separates. Ego divides. People, it always conflicting. Even within you, you find a division. You don't want to look into your essence because it's a major blow to your ego. Ego goes to death process. If you can connect with your soul essence, during meditation. That's why many of the egoistic people, they can't meditate. They say they refuse to meditate. They resist the change. No, I don't want to meditate. They stick on to this old identity. So friends, separativeness, lack of energy. Ego lacks energy. Because ego is a tiny part of our big consciousness, which is trying to come out as an entity, full entity. But it is very tiny, minuscule in front of our gigantic consciousness. So it lacks energy. It has no energy. It feels drained. Are you feeling drained in life? Because of the people, you're also reacting. Constantly you feel drained, tired. We need to look into this, our egoic identifications. And the need for stuffing. Ego always tries to find certain things from the outer world and we try to stuff. Ego never feels satisfied. There is constant dissatisfaction. Need for stuffing. I need more. I need more. Ego never feels appetite. No satisfactory appetite. It's voracious appetite. Like a bakasura who wants to always feeling hungry and hungry. We are hungry for power, hungry for money, hungry for many things. But the essence is always in peace. It is dwelling in the realm of the peace. Is content. Is full of satisfaction about what you already have. So these behaviors we notice in egoic mind, which is identified with some external identities. I am this, I am that, all those false identities. There is a need for constant proving yourself. Constantly we stuff ourselves. And we can also find out some more traits like ego with 5 C's here, which compares, criticizes, conflicts, also complaining nature, all the time complains. People who are all the time complaining, this is not good, this is bad, this is worse, always complaining nature. This is what ego does, complains. No appreciation for life. And conditioned, completely conditioned. Ego is conditioned. Conditioned mind creates ego. We are deeply conditioned. Part of the spiritual path is to become unconditioned mind, decondition ourselves, unlearn what you learned, become zero and empty. That's part of the spiritual path. So traits of ego with we remember with 4 S here. Always ego feels like special. I am special. I am special than you. Always feel special. I am extraordinary. Nobody is extraordinary. Everyone is ordinary. Whoever embraces their ordinariness, their just how they came out into this existence, the miracle of birth, the miracle of creation. Whoever humbly accepts it, understands it, then there is no kind of such special feeling. Those become special people then. Everyone is unique, definitely. But ego says, I am special than you. I am better than you. I am holier than you. I am better spiritual than you. It always wants to be special. We might notice these traits in children also. When they go for watching movies, they always identify themselves with the hero characters, never with any other people in the movie. Always want to be that high, special, receiving admiration from all the people around. Ego always looks for this. And superiority. Ego always tries to be superior. It always makes others inferior. That's not spirituality. That's ego states. Ego always says, I am superior and you are inferior. I am special spiritual person, you are ignorant idiot. And this kind of superiority feeling, where there is no equality, soul is always looks at everything as equal. Atman dwelling in everyone, every soul is equal. There is no hierarchy, there is essence, we share the same essence, same soul, same consciousness which is residing in all of us. What's the question of superiority here? And as we discuss about separation, always it separates. Ego separates. I am different from you. Ego isolates us. Ego says, these are my boundaries, my limitations, I can't mingle with you. You are commoners, I am extraordinarily special. And it isolates us. It separates, you separate yourself. There's a lot of separativeness that comes with the egoic mind. And ego also is identified with a story. The me stories, my stories. My story, this what happened, that person did this, victim story. And always ego finds somehow it has to be superior. If it initially strives for superiority in positive things like proving yourself in the world with money, power and all these things, or when it loses, then see with the sickness. See, I have a special sickness. I am very different. In 1 million people only will get this sickness. Even in these kind of tragedies, we find, okay, nobody suffers like this. I'm the only one who is suffering. I have the greatest suffering in the world. I'm greatest victim. Even the ego always tries to find that kind of specialness, or this kind of identified with the stories we created. Ego wants stories. All the stories are repetitive in nature. From childhood to so far, if we look into that, it's repetitive in nature. The same story is repeating in our life. The same thing repeating. So friends, we look into these different identities, how it has created many ego structures in us, but underlying there is only one common thing. There is something called clinging and identification with the mind, with the lower mind. That's a common theme in all these ego structures. So there are many different types of identities that we have. This model is from the 7 energy centers that we have. Based on that, we can understand these ego identities. So the first level of Muladhara identity. Many people who only dwell in Muladhara, who don't know that there are higher centers in us, who are only identified with the physical nature, physical body. Nothing else exists. This is a gross identity that we have. It's only the physical identity. What exists is what you see with your eyes, what you go through with physical senses. You identified with it. For example, your external beauty, even that brings a certain ego. See, I am more beautiful than you, more handsome than you. See, I am more fair, I am better color than you. All these things. These also kind of physical identities. How much time we spend for makeup every day? Physical identity. So much time that we give. It's good that bald people don't have hairs. They don't need to spend much time. So they don't need to stand in front of the mirror. So this we call it as Makasika Paryanta Nenu. The Mooladhara identity is what you see in the mirror, you think it is me. We identified with that only. Oh, I am a strong person. I am a healthy person. I am a very, very wonderful, a very beautiful person. And nobody else is beautiful than me. And we do all the makeups to make ourselves more beautiful. Ego wants to prove all the time. So the physical identity, and also the physical identity also carries with the financial identities. Money identity, rich, poor, and richness brings a status. We are identified too much with it. We think if I have money, people will value me more. If I have money, then I'll be honored, respected by my family members. I'll be loved because if I have more money. If I don't have money, people will not love me. So then we get identified with the money, richness. We go on living that kind of life where we look for the richness, run after the richness. We never enjoy this moment. We always dwell in the future, planning, working. And that never ends, that money identity. So we see it in our life, how much time it takes a toll on people to gain money. They spend all their life, they risk their health, they lose their health, and then go to hospital. Now all the hospital bills will rob their money away. They again lose whatever they gained. It's only one of the ego identities. We are totally identified with this. I'm not saying it is bad. I'm saying that we are totally entangled. It's a very different relationship we develop with the money or economics. And next chakra is the Sacral Chakra, which is the Swadhisthana Chakra. We all know these energy centers, the Mooladhara and Swadhisthana. Swadhisthana Chakra, which is the emotional identity of us. We are identified with emotions, many emotional identities, and which takes such big toll on us. We are identified with fears, we are identified with the victim state. We also have this masculine feminine polarity which we experience in this Sacral Chakra. So here we say masculine ego or feminine ego, we are totally identified with the masculine. Male is great, male is superior. Only in the male body we get enlightened. Females are inferior. This kind of ego, masculine ego, or the feminine ego. Feminine ego says only female goddess is the doorway to spirituality. All the masculine gods are stupids, or not so evolved. This kind of things. Creation, this kind of masculine, feminine are both equal in the creation, in the eyes of the Creator. There's no less or more. Just they are equals. So in the Sacral Chakra, we are totally identified with it. We are dichotomy, a duality, a polarity we experience here. And lot of emotional states we experience. We get identified with it. A sad emotion, fearful emotion, jealousy, greed, shame, guilt, all sorts of insecurities. They are dwelling in this Sacral Chakra. And we get identified with it. We create a story about it. This is my life story. This is me. We define ourselves with this story. And the third chakra, so this is the second chakra, emotional identity. So friends, are you able to follow it? Yeah? That's good. So the third identity comes from our Manipura Chakra. So many of us are at different levels, different stages of evolution. Many lifetimes we live as only Mooladhara people, Mooladhara identity, only physical. survival, food, shelter, sex, and all these things, that's what matters in life. Money, that matters. Nothing more is existing. Then emotional identities. Many lifetimes we spend in only Swadhisthana. It's about sexual obsession or sexual celibacy, all kinds of sexual dysfunction. We spend many lifetimes totally polarized, masculine, feminine, and all kinds of emotional stuff. And the third identity is Manipura Chakra identity. Here, there's a peak of the gross ego we can experience, and it is called power identity. We're identified with the power. What is externals, outside things. Whatever brings you power. You are able to control thousands of people, then you feel powerful. You're a leader. You say, I'm a great politician. I'm a great minister. You feel a kind of certain arrogance and pride and ego. And people, they have this Manipura identity, Manipura ego. Ravanashra has a Manipura ego. Initially his heads were chopped off by Lord Rama with arrows. He is chopping all the heads, but new heads are coming up. Then somebody told, I think Vibhishana told, you hit him in his belly. He is very highly egoistic. He's stuck there. He's Manipur Chakra fellow. He's stuck. He is identified only with that level. He wants to prove himself as the greatest warrior, greatest king, greatest wealthiest person in the world, greatest person who can command, who can lead people. And he is Shiva Bhakta, but his bhakti is only for gaining boons that I must be immortal. Even Shiva, nothing, no one can kill me. He wants to be greater. He wants to prove himself. So he is a Manipura identity. So Ravanashra was killed when Rama shot an arrow into his Manipur Chakra, into his belly. It's a great mythological story which has a lot of meaning in it. So the ego death. Ramayana is nothing but the essence, ego and the essence. How the ego takes a toll, how it makes us go through a lot of situations, conflicts and all the game, and how we arrive at the essence. Lord Rama represents the essence. Sitaram Kalyan, finally, which represents the essence. So friends, the ego identity with the power, and here the name, fame, success, outward success, outwardly achievements. How many awards I have won, that measures your success. And if you are opening your third eye, it's not considered as a success. There are many masters who gone beyond, who connected to their essence, who are very wise. They are never acknowledged in the world. They never seek the acknowledgement. If you go to Himalayas, you find many yogis who are, highly evolved beings, highly advanced beings. And we don't know anything. We think that we are such great people. And we don't consider Mahatma Babaji, who is such evolved being, and who is, very great levels of high evolution he went through. So we think we can't see. We are like frogs in the well. We think that this is only the world. This is me and mine. And or else we also sometimes create from the individual ego, we shift it to the group ego. We form groups. Even that also is an ego. You say, my group is great, my caste is great, my religion is great, my spiritual tradition is great, my spiritual master is great. But all the masters from the other side, Jesus Christ, Prophet, and Krishna and Buddha and Mahavir and Zoroaster and Guru Nanak Ji, they laugh at us. They have spoken the same truth, same thing. But we hear, our ego says, My path is greatest path. My spiritual tradition is the greatest spiritual tradition. Ego identification can be shifted to other levels, group levels. We form groups also based on our ego structures. So all the egomaniacs, they form a kind of group. It's a kind of group strength. Now they feel, I don't have ego, we are a group. From me, mine to it shifts to we all a group now. A groupism develops. So sect, cult, groups, and total identification with a group is also ego structure. It's just shifted to another level. It's a collective ego. So even in India, we find this kind of ego. Ego about our knowledge that we have here, wisdom that we have in our land. Every Indian, if you say, I know, it is there in our Vedas. But have you studied Vedas? Have you practiced it? Have you studied all the Upanishads? Have you practiced it? Nobody has done. But they pretend that my country has all the wisdom. But if you ask, nothing is shared, nothing is known. So we find it, this kind of intellectual or the spiritual pride, a spiritual arrogance, a spiritual ego. So friends, anahata identity, the fourth level, the fourth chakra, we call heart chakra. It is always in the heart chakra, first time we experience what is called no ego state. The ego minimizes because it's a relational. First time our heart center opens. So far till Manipur chakra there is a strong gross ego that develops in us, but at the anahata level there is a blow on this ego. First time we become less egoistic. We'll be able to forgive people. Otherwise ego says, how can I forgive you? I can never forgive you. You carry resentment. You always carry your past. In mind, egoic mind always carries the past. It goes on remembering old things, old stuff, the stories. But Anahata Chakra, first time when this is opening, we look at the present moment, this very moment, which is a golden moment. The past is gone. I make peace with the past. I love people. I give my love to people. I receive their love. This is Anahata Chakra identity. But here also the minus side, the negative side of it is, in the relationships, people, they get stuck. They have several identities. Here also the subtle ego develops in people. This is called subtle ego, Sukshma Hankar. First gross ego, Sthula Hankar. It becomes Sukshma Hankar here. It says, I am more divine than you. I am better than you. In relationships we always have this kind of, they will not voice out, but they always carry it in their mind, their specialness, their inner identity as a special, extraordinary being. But they're just common, very, very ordinary with everyone. So this is the negative side of this Anahata identity, which is messed up in many people because they carry this kind of wounds in their heart. And the fifth identity that we create at a Vishuddha level, the Vishuddha Chakra is the Throat Chakra. This is called Thyroid Chakra, which is called Communication Center. We are totally identified with our creativity. So you say, I am a great artist, I am the greatest artist. You can always say, I am a good artist. But if you say, I am the greatest flutist, greatest mridangam player and greatest, nobody else is existing. That's the bloated ego, inflated ego. So in this Anahata Vishuddha Chakra level, we are totally identified with our creativity, whatever creativity. Artists carry a kind of certain pride in certain artists that I found. It's also subtle in nature, very subtle, but you can make out. Those artists who has no ego, who conquered, who transcended the ego barriers, but people still carry it. Even at the Vishuddha level, this identity called I am the holier than thou, I am better than you, I am more divine than you, I am more creative than you, always wants to be one step ahead than others. So the next level of identity is called third eye identity or Agna Chakra identity. Agna Chakra, the third eye. Here there is one more identity that we have. Here we experience what is called Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi, the essence, the soul. So Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi, I am divine being. You first time come in contact with your own divinity inside you, and I'm not this, I'm that. Even this can create a kind of very subtlest ego in people. Oh, I am enlightened now. Others are ignorant fools. You have this kind of dichotomy that you carry. It is very, very subtle, sukshmati sukshmamainatuvanti ego. Very, very, very subtlest ego that we carry at this sixth level or consciousness also. But there is at one more level where the ego goes through the depths. It's called Sahasrara identity. It's called thousand petal lotus blooming. This says that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is God being. Everything is stuff made of God only. First realization here in the third eye chakra is I am God. And here in the Sahasrara, I am not only God, you are also God. He is God, she is God, and this is God, and everything is Brahman. The entire Brahman is made of Brahman, which is God. There is nothing that is unholy, ungodly. Everything is God. Everything is one. We are identified with the collective energy of the soul. There is no more individual separated ego in you. So sadhak, a practitioner, may be carrying these kind of subtle states of ego.